the tools and techniques, and also maybe we'll take a look at some methodologies, and whatever was left yesterday, we'll do that. And also we'll continue with the next one. I have two very quick polls for you. So maybe there are not many people who have joined yet. There are about 38 people, I think, but maybe in the meanwhile, you can take this poll to check how thorough you are with the two concepts that I've taught you so far. I'm launching poll 1, and this is not exactly a poll, this is a quiz question. It's in the poll format, that's all. So the first question I think that you can see on the screen is, which of these is not blended learning? There are 4 options given to you, and 3 are blended learning, and 1 is not blended learning. So the question is, which one is not? The first answer is blending classroom instruction with virtual instruction, right? And the second option is blending online instruction with access to a coach, a tutor, a teacher, whatever. And the third one, blending virtual simulation with instruction-led teaching. 2 things. And the last one, blending online instruction with online assessment. Both are online. So which one is not a form of blended learning? Okay, I'll give you a few more seconds. I think about only 6 of the 36 available have voted so far. I don't know why. Yeah, it's progressing now. I think maybe you are taking a little time to read the text. Shall I explain the question to you again? The question different levels or different kinds of blended learning. One is certainly not. I think maybe I'll give you another 30 seconds, and then if all of you poll, it will be good. If you give your answer, I'll know whether you have followed what I told you yesterday or not. Don't get confused by the options. So one of them is not blended learning because 2 formats are not included in that. Okay, and I think some of you perhaps do not want to take risk. You do not want to answer the question. I see only some 18 people have participated out of a possible 42. Right, let me stop here and show you the results. Right, so I've ended the poll. I'm sharing the results with you. Surprisingly, I don't know why you got confused with answer 2. Answer 2 also is some kind of blending because students have access to a coach. Access, I did not specify how that access is, whether that access is a physical or again virtual or telephonic or video, what kind of approach and access that is, I did not qualify, but still there is an opportunity for the student to interact with the coach outside the virtual classes. So blending online instruction with approach to a coach is also some kind of blended learning. But if you look at, of course, the first answer, the third answer, not many people have taken. They are only mistaken by the wording of that. Perhaps the first one, blending classroom instruction with online instruction, that's what exactly we want in blended learning to happen. So there are 2 formats one is online, one is physical. That's certainly blended learning. One unquestionably is blended learning. The third one, blending virtual simulation with instructor-led teaching. So there is a little simulation here, which is virtual, and there is an instructor-led component of teaching. So again, that's blending. So the only answer that's not correct, that's not blended learning, is the last one, where online instruction, online assessment. There's no human element there. Both are virtual, both are online, and perhaps both are synchronous. So there is no blending there. I mean, there is a blending, but it's not called blended instruction or blended learning in the context of what we are discussing today. I gave you at least 2 qualifications to be met for something to be called blended learning. What were the 2? One, physical with virtual, synchronous with asynchronous. So in the last one, that possibility is not there, and that's why this is not blended learning. I am sorry, I think maybe the question was a little confusing, and perhaps that's why you went wrong on that. So the correct answer is item 4, which is not blended learning. Okay, let me stop here, and I'll take one more poll here, maybe possible. One more question. I'm stopping sharing the results. Right. This is an easier question. The question is, which of these is a good example of blended learning? After answering question 1, I think it will be very easy for you to now distinguish which one is a blended learning. The 4 answers are filmed lectures, virtual workshops, e-learning module before F2F, face-to-face workshop, laboratory demonstration. The question is, which one is? The earlier question was, which one was not? Now the question is, which one is blended learning? Good. I think it's progressing well. I told you already, blended means there must be at least 2 things. Which one has 2 components in it? Blended. One of the 4 is an example of blended learning. The other 3 are not. A straight question. Not very difficult to answer. If anybody is going wrong, it's only because you have not read the question clearly. The question is, which of the 4 is a good example of blended learning? Okay, I think about 60% of you have polled your answer. Maybe I'll stop here, or shall I wait for the 10 seconds? Okay, I'll wait for 10 seconds. I think people are still thinking. Okay, I'm stopping it here. I'm ending the poll. I'm sharing the results with you. These are the results that you've given. Of course, luckily, 50% of you, but only 50% of you have given the correct answer. So there are 2 components here. One is e-learning. One is face-to-face learning. So a teacher and student sitting together, maybe most likely in a physical classroom, right? In a brick and mortar classroom, the student and teacher are facing each other. So in the physical presence of each other, learning is happening. And there is also an e-learning module, maybe one module online and one module physical. So option 3 is certainly blended learning. But I don't know why you went wrong with others. Only a filmed lecture. Suppose you film a lecture, you video your lesson and send it to somebody, it does not become blended learning because there is only one component in it, and most likely after you have filmed it, you have sent it, it's only asynchronous. The students can watch the lesson anytime they want. Other than that, there is nothing else. There is no physical contact with the teacher. There is no classroom instruction, and there is no synchronous instruction. So it's a filmed lecture, video recorded lecture. So that's not blended learning. The second answer was virtual workshop, like the one that's happening. It's not a good example of blended learning, whatever qualification we give to it. Just because it's going on air, it does not become blended. That's, I think, this is a very serious mistake that's happening now. Many people think that because these virtual lessons are happening, these are all blended learning. No. So the virtual presentations that are happening now, the webinars that are happening now, the online lessons that are happening now, the online TV lessons that are happening now are not examples of blended learning. And the last one again, just a laboratory demonstration. Maybe the students are seated in front of you. You are making a demonstration. Something is shown to the students visually, and then you are teaching something to your students. So again, it does not qualify to be called blended learning. So only answer 3 is the correct answer. The other 3 are not correct answers. So maybe you need to take a closer look at the definition that I gave yesterday and the day before, and you must make sure that you clearly understand what blended learning is. Otherwise, you will not be able to follow it, right? It will be difficult for you to follow the tools that we discuss now and the methodologies that we are likely to discuss tomorrow, etc. Okay, let's move on. Now, I am looking for a good network platform. A network platform. I'm not talking about blended learning yet. I'll come to that in the next slide or maybe a slide after that. I'm just talking about a good network platform, a platform available to students, teachers, educational institutions on the network. So what are some good features of that? How does it become a good one? In case I'm looking for a good one, what features must I look for? One, it must be able to connect and collaborate with teachers and students. So it must be a platform where the student is there, the teacher is there, and both are able to connect with each other, right? Communicate with each other, collaborate with each other. That's exactly what's happening now. Zoom is a beautiful platform, right? We used Google the other day, right? So these are excellent network platforms which allow the students and the teachers to connect and collaborate. Then there must be an opportunity for students and teachers to log in to a class discussion, a whole class discussion. For instance, if I unmute you now, right, all of you can participate in discussion, right? I'm speaking to you, and then you can also ask me questions. You can use the chat box, you can use the question answer panel, or you can even unmute yourselves and then you can speak to me. We can interact with each other. We can participate in a discussion. Then the third feature of a good platform is it must enable students and teachers, SS stands for students and TS stands for teachers, to share educational, anything relating to the content, the components, right? Whatever is being taught. So we are sharing, for instance, I want to share a Word file with you. This platform allows, I can post it in the, I think yesterday, for instance, the feedback form was posted to you in the chat box. So what happened? The content was shared with you. Like you shared a link to the feedback form, we can also share video files, audio files, text files, Excel sheets, right? PowerPoint, slideshows, whatever. So you can post them so that others share them. They can download them, they can use them again and again, right? That possibility is there. So content sharing must be possible. Some platforms may not allow them. And don't choose such platforms when you are planning some virtual learning and blended learning, both. Right. Then it must also give you an opportunity to access notifications, homework. Suppose the teacher gives some homework, the students must be able to access that. If the teacher has conducted a test and has allotted grades, the students must be able to access their grades on their own, right? And any notification, suppose the teacher wants to send a notice, tomorrow the class is scheduled at so and so. So the platform must allow that. That's a good platform in case it allows that. And finally, most importantly, the platform should also restrict unauthorized access. For instance, I conduct an examination, I award marks to the students. I don't want students to know others' marks. Every student must have access to only one's own marks. I scored 62 marks and I have access, I can check and I can find out. Why should I find out others' marks? A parent, for instance, can access only his child's marks, not the whole class marks. Or suppose you want to put the mean, the average, some other statistical data about the whole class, and then you put it in a certain domain where all parents can access that, because only comparatively the parent will know where the student is, right? Because your son has got 62 marks and the class average is 85. That means the student's performance is below the norm, right? Similarly, your student has scored 62 marks, but the class average is 40. That means your son is doing extremely well. Like that, suppose the teacher gives that access to the data, then only to the data that is given access to can be accessed. Other data cannot be accessed. A teacher cannot peep into other teachers' performance. So like that, if it allows restricted access to data, restricted authorization to data, I think that will be a great platform. So I've created an anagram for you to easily remember these 5 things, CLEAR. So a good platform offers this. Now ask yourself whether Zoom does it, whether Google does it, whether this does it, whether that does it, some other platform that you are using in your college does it or not, before you go in for the kind of platform that you want to choose to give your virtual lessons and blended lessons in future, right? Immediately after college is reopened. So choose a platform that allows these 5 things, and only if these 5 things are allowed, it is a good platform. Otherwise, there is something missing and insufficient in that. Okay. Now, going one step further, I told you in the previous slide, the 5 things that I talked about are minimum requirements to make a platform good both for virtual learning and blended learning. But now let's look at only blended learning. So there must be something more than that, more than those 5 qualifications. What is that? So those qualifications are blended learning tools must have these 3 components that I've seen in circles here. There must be a little in-person classroom activity. Let me explain. Suppose I choose a certain platform, a tool, right? A certain online facility available to me, and my way of teaching is going to be blended learning, right? I'm going to try blended learning tomorrow onwards, and I'm looking for a good platform. So that platform must allow in-person, physical, face-to-face, brick and mortar like classroom situation activity, something that teacher and student can do together, right? Physically, right? Like the classes that you had before the lockdown began. Then the second element is an online environment also must be. That platform must allow a provision for online environment also. For instance, there must be a scope for me to conduct online classes there. What happens in the physical classroom should be controlled, managed, right? The progress must be charted, etc., on that tool. The online learning environment must be created, and a structured opportunity for every student to take an independent study. Suppose you have 50 students in your class, not all 50 students progress at the same pace. So there must be teacher structure. Structured is done by the teacher, but the path and the pace are decided by the student. So the student takes that lesson at his own pace, at his own pace, right? So that individuals are taken into account, individual differences are, taken care of. So the three components must be taken care of. The tool that you are going to choose for your B-learning test must have all these three scopes, right? What is one? The one is the physical lesson, the classroom lesson. 2 is the online lesson, and 3 is individual considerations. So if these three things are taken care of, it is a good tool for B-learning. So a few questions that you can ask yourself. Suppose you are choosing a B-learning platform. So a few questions that you can ask yourself before you choose that is, does it enhance ILT management, instructor-led training, teaching, whatever? Does it help me manage that? Suppose I use a tool XYZ. Is there an opportunity for me to monitor, right, and continuously evaluate what's happening in the physical classroom? Maybe I hold a test in the physical classroom. So there must be an opportunity for me to upload the marks that are secured by the students, so that what's happening online and what's happening in person, both are, both are considered, right? So that is question number 1. Question number 2, virtual classroom functionality. This I don't need to tell you, all of you know already, every platform is allowing it now. Virtual classroom is online classroom, e-learning opportunity, e-learning platform. So that, like for instance, the one that we are doing now, camera, right, online, the teacher is speaking, the student is speaking, or maybe some interaction is happening, a quiz is being conducted, whatever. So virtual classroom functionality also must be there in that. And 3, a social learning engagement. Many of you perhaps have not thought of this. The platform must allow some way for the students to interact outside the class, maybe for instance on a Facebook page. So maybe the students have been encouraged by the teacher to create a Facebook group, and after the class is over, suppose you have given them an assignment and the students interact with each other. Suppose you have created a WhatsApp group, for instance, of your students, and you also, if you want, are a part of that WhatsApp group, like the group that has been created by Dr. Malaysia here, the FDP group that's now available to all of us. So what's happening? There is some social learning happening, social engagement happening. My assignments that I am posting are engaging some of you at least. Maybe in a classroom situation, you can make it compulsory. I am making some of it is optional, some of it is compulsory, or whatever, right? So don't directly take this as a good example, the one that's happening here, because not many teachers are responding there. But in a real life situation, maybe you can give whatever instructions you want to your students, and then you can engage, because these days most students love interacting on those social platforms. So if you connect your class to Facebook, if you connect your class to YouTube, if you connect your class to Telegram, WhatsApp, whatever forums that are available to you and whatever are popular with your students, I think so that meets one more specification. The 4th one, cohesive learning paths. There must be, see, 2 things happening. Every student must have an opportunity to go at one's own speed. But at the same time, there must be some way to regulate the students so that everything goes together. For instance, at least in India, I made a mention of it on the first day, that we cannot allow students to take an examination any day they like. They have to wait till March for the examination to happen. At the end of the semester only, all students have to take a common examination and they can progress to the next level. Examinations cannot happen every day. So there must be a way to regulate students' progress. They must, for instance, they finish one assignment very fast. The other student takes 2 days to finish that. One finishes in 1 hour and one finishes in 5 days. So you allow that. That's okay. But at the same time, they have to go together on some other track. What is the track? Maybe it's the year-end examination, it's the summative examination, it's the system requirements, etc., etc. For that, what do? Maybe one simple principle that you can build into that is those who are going faster will have access to some more components. Suppose I finish the assignment within 1 hour, instead of waiting for the next 5 days till the others catch up with me, maybe only I get a few more components, additional components that are not available to others. Because I'm a bright student, I get access to those also. I don't want to just waste my time. Whereas a weak student is given a push, some encouragement, and maybe a reminder or coach support, a tutor attends to him, whatever, and then ensure that that student also runs with the rest of the team. So this is another feature that needs to be built into a B-learning platform or tool. And finally, and again, most importantly, learning analytics in real time. Suppose I hold an examination. Suppose I held, for instance, a quiz now. How long did I have to wait for the results to appear? Not even a second. The moment the poll ended, lots of statistical data was available to me to analyze how many people voted, how many people voted in favor of the first answer, how many people chose the second answer, what percentage of those who polled chose answer 4. All that data was available to me within a fraction of a second. So if a platform allows this kind, maybe there are some platforms, for instance, on the first day, we could not hold a poll because that was not possible on that. That even if it was possible, that was perhaps not easy. I checked, but I could not do that on the first day. So Zoom allows that. Maybe some other platforms allow that. So choose a platform that allows excellent instant analytics of whether learning is happening or not, how many students are. For instance, as the poll was in progress, I could tell you only 21 have polled so far out of 40. 32 have polled. Some 5 people have not polled. 22 people have not polled. So many, this percentage of people have polled. So tomorrow I can take a printout on an Excel sheet and also check who polled and who did not poll. Even that data is available to me. Suppose a teacher wants to check later who are the students who did not participate in the poll. Yes, the data is available and the system allows that, the platform allows that. How many people answered question 1? Right? How many people answered this question wrong? Right? Who are all the students who gave a correct answer to this question? All this data is possible with good platforms. Right? So, in case a platform, if your answer to all these 5 questions is yes, that platform, that tool is the best to be chosen. Okay, let me remind you once again, what you are doing now is not blended learning. What you are doing now is virtual learning. What you are doing before the lockdown began was mostly physical learning, classroom, brick and mortar learning, and maybe some of you were using a little virtual learning. But that was not essential because the student had to come to your class and then the student had to put in a certain attendance, and attendance was essential, and the teacher-student interaction was happening, and maybe Zoom classes and other classes on virtual platforms were not really necessary. Of course, some teachers might have used them. So only one form was available then, one form is available now. We are talking about tomorrow. When colleges reopen, by then, because the virtual platforms have already become quite popular, and the governments may say, okay, the students need not attend all the classes, they can do this also. All the components of the course need not be taught this way. Some components can be taught this way. Right? This is possible physically, and this is not possible physically. This must be done virtually. This cannot be done virtually. And if you begin, when you begin doing that, then blending real blending begins. Real blending happens. You are blending a different way. Earlier, perhaps you were giving a project work to students, right? That was also a different kind of blending. I told you, even homework is some kind of blending. We're not talking about that now. So you are choosing a platform that allows the best combination of the two modes, right, in a very, very effective way. So ask yourself these 5 questions. And in case your answer is yes to all these 5 questions, you've got the right platform, the right source. Okay. Then there are a few other considerations that we can take. And then these are lots of different kinds of tools that are available to us in the market, on the web. And many of them are free, luckily. And some are paid. And then if your college can afford, you can go in for some paid platforms. So what are a few things that can be done once blending becomes very popular? One is, of course, most important is an LMS provider. I'll come to some examples in the next slide. What is LMS? I think most of you know already. LMS is Learning Management System, right? I think you're all management teachers, I think. I'm not very sure, but I think most of you are management teachers. So learning management. So it manages the learning of the students. So it's a system that helps you manage whether learning is happening or not, how much learning is happening, what kind of learning is happening, who is learning, who is not, how much percentage of what's learned, etc., etc. Something that manages, that is a learning management system. So a provider, somebody who provides you a learning management system, that's essential. That's a tool, one kind of a tool. There are lots of games available. Games are again 2 kinds. Some games are real games themselves. If somebody plays cricket as cricket online, right? So maybe the platform is virtual, but actually he's playing cricket. That's a serious game. But sometimes the game is played some kind of a simulated situation where he does not actually play the game, but some components of game are included in that. Maybe when I give you some examples later, you will understand that. Then there is a lot of confusion between games and gamification. Many teachers use the word gamification as if it's a kind of a game. No, gamification is not games. Gamification is bringing the elements of a game into the classroom. What are the elements of a game? Can anybody tell me what are the elements? What are the features of a game? Why do we play games? Right? A healthy competition, right? Sometimes to identify who is the best. Sometimes to just create some healthy competition. Sometimes to incentivize, to give rewards to people. So there are some features. So games are so very interesting. People love games because of some features. Those features are brought into the classroom. For instance, you declare a prize to the best student. You don't call him the best student, maybe somebody who performs a certain activity fast, or somebody who does it right, somebody who scores 100 marks. You declare a prize. That is gamification. There is no game there actually. There is no real game played. So playing games is different. Game. Suppose you give a badge to a student. I did it many times. I did lots of presentations where, physical presentations where I offered badges, tokens, gifts. So sometimes I carry some books with me. So whenever somebody gives a good answer, I gift them a book. So that's gamification. If I give a book to a student who has performed well, that is gamification. There is no game, there is a gamification. So gamification. Then lots of different kinds of formative assessment tools are there. You can build them into your B-learning tools, right? Webinars, what's happening now? All different kinds of webinars are possible, and then you can use them in your B-learning classes. Then blogs, excellent again. Blogs are, that can be built into your, whatever tool you are using. I think we are using WhatsApp as a kind of a blog now. So the assessment and the assignment and the answers that you give are some kind of a blog there. Of course, it can be further better structured with student interaction, responses, etc., etc. So it's some kind of a blog, but there are real blogs, and then I think they are excellently managed. There are some free blog spots, and you can either build that, you can embed the blog spot into your platform, or you can have a separate one. Students will love that. And as I already told you about social media pages, some case studies, some projects, etc. All these can be built into your teaching methodology, teaching tool, so that it becomes well structured and also well built. Okay, let's move. I gave you this assignment in the morning today. What I'm going to do now is, in fact, I did not ask you to answer that question in the WhatsApp group, but some of you, I mean, quite enthusiastically did that. I appreciate that. Some 6 or 7 of you have already answered the questions, and they did some little research. They went to all these websites, and they also wrote detailed notes on them. Even if you had read the responses given by some of your colleagues, perhaps you are ready even without going to the actual websites. So there is a list of some 12 B-learning tools. I mean, let me clarify once again. These tools can be used for B-learning, can be. They are not specifically built for B-learning. They are built for virtual learning. They are built for online learning. But these can be used for B-learning. When you want to, I mean, begin using blended learning, physical as well as virtual, then you can use these platforms, tools conveniently. So what I'll do is I will begin unmuting you. Everyone can speak about any one of them, and you can take about 1 or 2 minutes, or maybe in about 2 minutes, you can explain what are the features of that, what is good about that tool in the context of what I've been explaining to you in the last 20-30 minutes. So what are good features? What makes a B-learning tool a productive, effective, rewarding, efficient tool? So I gave you some qualifications already. I think you remember that these are some of the 5 questions I suggested. These are some questions some points that I made referring to good platforms. And these are some qualifications of a platform to be a good platform for B-learning. Now I'm asking you to describe any one of these platforms. So please go to the window, and then you raise your hand. Whoever raises the hand, I will unmute you. And after I unmute you, perhaps you can begin speaking. Maybe you can take about 2 minutes to explain any one of them. Anyone is okay with you. Yeah, it's time for you now. Do I see any hands rising? Yeah, I think Kamalakar Rao has raised his hand. I am unmuting him. Mr. Kamalakar Rao, you can choose any one of them and you can explain to us. Yeah, Kamalakar Rao, you can unmute yourself now.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I've been using Khan Academy, and I feel that the wonderful features is the online classes particularly are quite informative. Right. And particularly Khan Academy, I like it.
Mm-hmm.
That other things have not used much.
Okay, don't worry. But what about Khan Academy? What are its features? How is it useful for B-learning? What have you done on Khan Academy? Will you please tell me?
I was listening to the economic lectures.
Okay. So you were a student there.
I was a student there, and I was listening to macroeconomic lectures there on Khan Academy. And what I find is like it's quite informative. He gives you overall 360-degree picture about gives the overall picture, as well as the explanation is really good.
Correct. It's an excellent platform. It's an excellent website. and there are some of the best lessons by the best teachers available there. Now, Kamlakar, I have a small question. Suppose I have access to Khan Academy and I have liked a lesson there. There is a lesson already posted there by somebody, and then I did not produce it, but it's available to me and I can use that lesson. So, to help my students, what can I do with that?
I can share that. I share that.
That's all. Simple, very simple. So what can I do is I take that link and share it with my students and tell them, oh, here is a good lesson. So I'm going to talk about that tomorrow, or I already talked to you about it yesterday. So this clue, this link is taking you to a good lesson on that subject. Please go through that before you come to class tomorrow. So one simple, sharing the link is enough to build a future lesson on that, right? What else can we do that? Can you imagine? One more thing can be done with that?
Sharing.
Can I build an assessment based on that?
Yeah, definitely we can.
Definitely. Yes, thank you very much. So what I've done, I've shared a link with the student, and I also have sent one assessment with that. So please go through this video lesson and answer these two questions. Right? So that is possible. I don't have to create the lesson. I only have to create the assessment. Sometimes the assessments also are already available there. Khan Academy lessons already come with some assessments. And if I think that assessment is good, maybe I can directly offer it to my students. So that's one possibility. Suppose I'm in a physical classroom. I'm inside a physical classroom, and maybe I have a video cam, or maybe I have a television in my class, I have an overhead projector or whatever. I can play that Khan Academy lesson and conduct a physical quiz. I show it to them, or I stop it whenever I want, and I can ask my students, okay, what have you seen there? What is this? What is that? What do you think happens next? Some such thing, maybe depending on the subject that you teach, and in case you found the right lesson available on Khan Academy, it can be used in a physical classroom, it can be used in a virtual classroom. So that is how this can be put to the best use. Thank you, Kamlakar. Thank you very much. Can I have one more person raise hand? Anyone else? I think some of you already did a lot of research on them in the morning, and then you posted your answers there. Yeah, I think Seema Sharma has raised her hand. I am unmuting Seema. Seema, you can now switch on your microphone and speak.
Good evening, sir.
Yeah. Yes.
Hello. Hello. Good evening, sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, I have learned about Moodle.
I can hear you.
Hello.
Okay.
Sir, I have learned about Moodle in FDP.
Yes, please.
And Moodle is LMS, and I also created this site, but didn't use very much for students.
Yes.
And yes, sir. So I am speaking. Am I audible? Hello.
Yes,
What's
very much.
Wrong?
Yes, please.
Yes, sir. Moodle. I would like to
Seema, I can hear you.
say about Moodle. Yes.
Right.
Moodle is a LMS system. And I have also created it. One side I created during FDP learning. And by this we can learn. We can use this for B-learning.
Right. Right. Can you give some more one example of how you can use it in B-learning, Moodle?
I can prepare my lecture, and I also share my site vagera to students. I join students through this platform, and I also give them quizzes and some assignments, whatever I like.
Yeah, very good. Perfect. Thank you, Seema. Thank you very much. That's a great way. So Moodle also can be used both in the physical format in your physical classroom and also in case you are conducting any virtual classes. So though it's a virtual platform, it can be brought to the classroom, the physical classroom. So most of these platforms are built such that the teacher, in case the teacher is creative, the teacher is innovative, he can bring these resources to be used in multiple ways. Most of them are built like that. So tomorrow you are going to live in a world where you have to switch over to blended learning compulsorily. Whatever college you are working at, whichever university you are in, you have to switch over to blended learning very soon. So part of this education, part of the learning process happens with you physically, and you have to deliver some modules, some parts of it online. That's why, so these platforms and tools help you. One more person, please. Somebody raised hand. Yeah, Niklesh, I think I'm unmuting Niklesh. Yeah, Niklesh Jivaji.
Sir, good evening, sir. Good evening, sir. My name is Ajay Kumar, sir. I'm a faculty from Vijayanagar College of Commerce. So yesterday, due to power cut, I have missed this, but I can answer spontaneously, sir. Fourth one, EduFlow. According to this EduFlow, that means online interaction. Let us say you want to learn, if you want to have any queries related, you can post and you can get the queries done. So I have answered spontaneously, sir. I have not done any research.
No problem.
By seeing your fourth point, I have just answered it.
Okay.
If it is wrong, please correct me, sir.
No, there is nothing wrong. Your experience, we are only sharing your experiences. In fact, I did not discuss this yesterday. I only gave an assignment in the morning today. I gave an assignment in the group, in the WhatsApp
What
group.
I found is that, sir, EduFlow means which online interaction where queries get clarified, that sort of thing.
Moving one step further, how can you use it to help your students, not to help yourself, but to help your students?
By giving certain links to the students, and by even some of the thing, they have chat rooms also where students can log in and they can get the queries qualified by chat room. Yes, that's what.
Good. So you are talking about collaborative learning techniques. So students can be put into groups, and then collaborative learning techniques can be used. Many of these platforms allow that. Maybe tomorrow I will try to demonstrate that. I mean, on this Zoom also, maybe we can put ourselves into some groups and then discuss a topic. And then that is possible with quite a lot of, platforms that are available to us now, right? So that's a good tool that's available to us. One more person, please. Yeah, I think Professor Anita is there. I am unmuting you, Professor Anita. So please speak now.
Good evening, sir. Yeah, I want to speak about the learning tool Kahoot. This learning tool Kahoot, actually I have not used it, but I have seen the demo of how the Kahoot is being used by one of my colleagues. They generally use, it's a online quiz where the quiz will be created, and then whatever at the end of every unit we can conduct this particular quiz, and then like it is a like as you said, who like a game, it's a gamification tool. Like I feel that it can be used that way. I don't know whether I'm right or not.
You're right.
Because it tells you who is first, who is second. There's a competition spirit will be there in the students who they wish to learn and then answer that particularly. I think this particular tool is related to that, sir.
Great, you're right. You're right. This is some kind of a quiz that you can hold on Kahoot, and Kahoot is, more suitable for young children because there are lots of fancy things there. There are lots of colors, designs, badges, gifts, etc. happening. And then as you answer more and more, you get more and more rewards and you feel excited. And the whole thing is built especially for school students and maybe younger college students. I think it works wonders. But as far as B-learning is concerned, suppose you have a quiz that quiz can be used in a classroom and also online. For instance, your college allows students to bring mobile phones into the class. Let's imagine tomorrow that's going to happen, that we are not very far from there. So every student can carry a mobile phone, a laptop, or maybe you are working in a laboratory where students have access to internet, and then you can conduct it right in front of them in the physical class. You can also give the same quiz asynchronously to students outside. So of course, I mean, it works better if it's synchronous. All students are doing it at the same time and they have their scores compared, and there is a fixed time when they all log into that. Even if the students are not inside the classroom, you sit in your own place and then you say, okay, 7:30, it gets launched. And the students start doing it. So as a teacher, you know the results. I think it's quite exciting. I mean, beautiful. I think like you rightly said, it's an excellent gamification tool also.
Yes.
Thank you, Professor Anita.
Yes, actually, sir, I also use in my classes Mentimeter in between to make it engaging, and also Slido.com. That is also interesting. I thought I'll share it.
Yeah, there are many more. I have chosen only some. At random, I have chosen 12, but there are maybe several thousands of them.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Anita. I think the next one is Professor Sannyasi Rao. I am unmuting you, Professor Sannyasi Rao. Yeah, you can speak now.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I mean, good evening. Yeah, good evening. Actually, I want to say about Edmodo, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, last year I used this for presenting, I mean, for giving assignments, and some videos also I uploaded. And whatever the things we give to the students, so it can be notified to the students through their mail. Like that I used, but I mean, a few months I used it for one semester only. But now I'm using Canvas, sir. So I'm very much comfortable with Canvas now.
Yeah, Canvas is a very good one.
Yeah. Now I'm using, I mean, for video sessions, for video conferences, I'm using Zoom. For taking online classes, but for conducting quiz and for giving assignments, everything. So for posting my notes, everything I'm using Canvas now. But Edmodo also I used.
Can you give us one instance?
I felt somewhat good.
Can you please give us one instance of what did you do with Edmodo with students?
Yeah, I posted some material like things, some material, some information. So based on that, students I mean interacted with me. So through some messages and all. So within that Edmodo platform.
Great. Yeah. So you posted some material there. You asked the students to read that and respond on that.
Yes, exactly.
So you created some interaction with your students based on what you posted on Edmodo.
Yes.
Edmodo is an excellent tool, one of the best available to us. Okay, thank you, Professor Sannyasi Rao.
Thank you.
The next one, please. I think we can have some 4 or 5 more. Anyone else would like to speak? Please raise your hand here, and then I will unmute you. I think you might have seen in the morning, I think 7 or 8 of you have visited all of them. I think some of you can speak on any one of them. I don't see any further responses. Are you by chance writing in the chat box anything? Okay, no. I think Professor Anita has raised her hand again. Kamalakar Rao has, I'm unmuting Professor Anita again. Yeah. No, I think she has dropped her hand. Kamalakar Rao has raised his hand again. No. Has your hand got dropped by chance? Rhea, Kamalakar, I am unmuting you. Yes, you can speak now.
Sir, I've used I've actually participated in one of the FDPs, and I've used Moodle Kahoot as an example. But I've not used them. But Kahoot is a really good gaming where you can actually send the games to all the students. Moodle, we can create lectures and we can post them. Apart from that, I've not used other tools.
Good. Right. Professor Anita also has raised her hand again. I have unmuted you, Professor Anita.
Sir, Edpuzzle is the one which I use for one time. But I've not practically used in the class. I've attended one FDP. There I've heard about it. Like it is a where we can create an interactive video lesson, sir. Like, we can download that which is there online, something related to my topic. Suppose I'm teaching operations management. I take that particular topic, which is maybe it is of a video of 10 minutes. So in between, I can pause the video. I can edit that and add a question over there. And then students will be able to answer that. So in that way, I can make a beautiful interactive video lesson by taking the existing one from the Google.
Correct. I think that's an excellent idea that you presented. Maybe tomorrow, if you find some time, we'll demonstrate one. Suppose, I think what Anita said is, suppose you have a certain video. So you can use the same video created by somebody. For instance, someone TED or some other YouTube, you find a video, and then if it's not copyrighted or protected, you use that, or maybe with copyright permission, you use that, and you build a lesson based on that. So intermittently, here and there, you have a quiz, you have a question, you have additional inputs or whatever, and then you can make it a very highly interesting lesson with very little effort. I think you can use the best of the lessons that are available to you, and you can make them available to your students. So every lesson need not be produced by you. So you can use a lesson that's already produced by somebody to meet your requirements, keeping your students in mind, keeping your lesson in mind, keeping what exactly you would like to focus on. You can, tailor the lesson to suit your needs. Thank you, Anita.
I just browsed about this Flip Snack Edu, sir.
Okay.
This one, what I understood from what I browsed it is, it is an online publishing tool where you can convert your PDF into flash page flip digital publications, we see in the websites, like a document where we can flip it in the online, that particular thing. This is what I understood. I don't know how far I'm right about it. This is what I understood when I browsed it.
You are thoroughly right. Correct, that's what it is. I showed you 2 short videos in the first day talking about the history of B-learning, and both of them use different video editing tools. And this is a similar one.
Okay.
Right. And then maybe can we have 1 or 2 more? I expected lots of hands to rise, and then I thought there would be a problem in stopping you. I think there are 73 people participating, but only 4 or 5 have come forward. I want at least 1 or 2 more. At least those who responded to my assessment in the morning. Yeah, I think Shailaja has raised her hand. Shailaja, I have unmuted you.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Sir, actually, I'm working as assistant professor in Ambedkar College, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Institute of Management and Technology. The same thing, sir. Even I found Moodle as one of the best apps for the students to be utilized. And one good feature is we can divide the students. That means we can segregate the students. If I feel this 10 to 15 students are poor students or who are not interested or who cannot grab the lesson what I am telling, for them I can create a separate account for them and I can separately assess them.
Perfect.
So I think this is one of the best feature what Moodle has. Apart from normal, I also used this Google Classroom. earlier before Moodle come, because recently I started using Moodle just like this an FTP. In this FTP only I have learned about Moodle, as everyone learned. But prior to Moodle, I have used Google Classroom also. So there also we had lot of options, like we can take daily attendance, we can give assignments, we can give tests to the students, and we can also upload our lectures. The same thing now Moodle is also doing. And apart from this, now we got a concept called quadrants. So we have to divide our total units. Suppose in MBA, according to the syllabus structure, so if one unit is there, altogether 5 units will be there. So if I take one unit, I have to divide it into 4 or 5 parts and make lectures, add some PPTs to that, and we can save it. Students can listen even if they are not attending today because of some technical issues also. They can see it and answer the assignment later on. So these are the good features of Moodle, I guess.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for presenting those concepts and also the features of Moodle. Yes, Moodle is an extremely well-built platform available to teachers, and teachers can do all that you said. So most importantly, I think Shailaja spoke about 2 important features of Moodle. One is grouping them. So grouping allows collaboration. So lots of collaborative activities, starting from pair work to group work to collaborative learning, is possible if the platform allows you to put students into groups. So Moodle allows that. And the second feature that she talked about is identifying the weak students and then giving them a separate class, identifying various streams, various levels of them, and meeting their individual needs, right? So some features which are built into many of these platforms are extremely useful. And she also talked about sending a lesson or making a lesson available to your students. Those who miss the class do not really miss. So it's available to them. We are not talking about the negative side of it. So if a student really has a cause to miss a class, if he has a reason to miss a class, and then he need not miss the lecture. So he can always come back to that lecture a little later and listen to that and then understand that. So these are some features that are built into most of these platforms. Shall we wait for one last hand to rise? Yeah, I think again, Kamalakar, we'll wait for half a minute. If somebody else raises the hand, it's okay. Otherwise, I'll ask Kamalakar to. Anyone else? The last one? I think it's Kamalakar again. Okay. Kamalakar, I have unmuted you.
Good evening, everyone. So I've used another tool, which is audio recording tool, which is vacaro.com, VACAROO.com, where we can actually record small bits and you can send it across. You can give assignments like tell me about yourself. It's an English tool where to enhance English. I was using particularly for group of students to enhance their English, like tell me about yourself, and they can record it and they can send it back to me, wherein we can easily send the feedback again to them.
Right.
So that I found to be useful.
It's very useful, yes. Yeah, so thank you very much, all of you, those who responded to this quick assignment and also have contributed to the class. And I request everyone else to go through some of these websites, or maybe you can do your own research and find something that best suits you. One point that I would like to make at this time, before I move on to the next slide, is many of the features that you talked about are useful on virtual platforms. But now the most important question that we need to consider is, how can I make them multi-purpose? For instance, towards the end of it, we talked about a video editing tool or a video file sharing tool. Suppose I have created a video file or an audio file. Suppose I made an audio file. I audio recorded my lesson, a bit of it. Now, how does it become e-learning? In case I share it with students, it becomes only virtual learning, no? So it has to become B-learning, means there must be 2 components. Where are the 2 components? There is only one. Suppose I record the audio I send it to my students. The students listen to me, and the student, perhaps in case there is an assignment attached to that, they respond to me. Still, it is virtual learning only. It's not B-learning yet. It has not become B-learning. So maybe you have to make it B-learning by using it in 2 different environments. If I have created an audio file, for instance, in the classroom, suppose I ask my students to record my lesson, right? Those who attend the class, they come to the physical class, they record using Vocaro or whatever, and they record my lesson and take it home. I send them home an assignment based on what they have recorded. I am saving time. I am teaching the class now. I have a 50-minute class and I don't have time for assignment, dictating, writing on the board or whatever. So I have finished my lesson. The students have been asked to record that. Or maybe I have recorded it myself on my own phone and I've shared that file with them. What happened in the class is shared again with the students. Now that goes with an assignment. And when do they answer the assignment? Not in the class, because they have a whole 5, 6, 10, 20 hours later, because it depends on when I have sent this file to them. The students have time to re-listen to that. And after listening to it again and again in parts, wherever, whatever way they want, then they answer the questions and send it to me virtually. So there is a physical component there, there is a virtual component there. Then only it has become blended. I think this is one important thing that you need to remember. Unless the platform allows both of these, it's still not called B-learning, it's only virtual learning. Maybe that's why perhaps you got mistaken when I asked those 2 quiz questions. Any of these platforms that you see on the screen can be limited in their functionality in respect of their use if you limit it to virtual learning platforms. Moodle, Edmodo, the best of them, even they will remain virtual learning platforms if you don't know how to use them. So if it allows you to use, or if you creatively use it for multi-purpose, dual purpose. So for instance, when the students are listening to you inside the class, it is synchronous. When you have given them an assignment home, every student is not answering that assignment at the same time. But because it's on a virtual platform, whenever the student responds to that, he immediately knows his score. He does not have to wait for a minute. So somebody answers the questions at 5 o'clock and gets a response. Somebody answers the questions tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock and gets the response. Maybe the response is predetermined. For instance, you just have written, congratulations, you've finished the course. Suppose one sentence, appreciative remark you've written. When does it go? Only when he finishes answering that. Only when he takes the assignment, or only when the system tells you that the questions are answered correct. If one of the questions is wrong, and then a reply goes automatically. What does it say? Oh, this question is answered wrong. These 4 questions are right. You have scored so many marks. It all is automatic. So my time is saved, my effort is saved, and accuracy is greater. And my time that's available to me in the physical classroom is used more productive. I don't have to value those scripts. I don't have to go through that subjective process of evaluating things, that loads of things that we used to have earlier. So school teachers, one of the laborious laborious job that teachers are subjected to is evaluation of student scripts. And because they don't have time and patience and some other problems, so they usually, just award marks instead of evaluating the papers. Now we can avoid that in case we use B-learning platforms. Okay, so those who have not responded to me now and those who have not taken a look at some of these platforms, please continue doing it after the class is over. Maybe you can do it today, tomorrow, 5 days later, 10 days later, whenever. But you must identify some platforms, some tools that work best for you. What works best for me may not work for you best. Somebody finds some audio recording facility very good. Somebody else finds something else good. Yesterday I showed you one video editing tool, Bandicut. Maybe somebody else is using something else. Absolutely right. But what you use should umpteen number. There are actually thousands of such platforms. Too many rather. You get lost once you begin searching for them. Once you begin searching for them, you get lost. Is my voice audible? I think there is some internet connectivity issue, I think. Malesha, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So there was some problem with internet for a few seconds. Right. So go home and then start working on them and maybe take a closer look at them. Do your own research and identify at least 1 or 2 platforms that meet your exact requirement. Depending on the first day, I considered some factors that help you decide what works best. So the environment in which you teach, the management for which you teach, what kind of students come to you, what is their affordability, how many of them have what kind of tools, how many of them have access to internet, how many of them cannot work online at the same time, what is the physical infrastructure available. So many other factors need to be taken into consideration. And after that, maybe you choose a platform that works for you and that you can refine, you can improve, and you can do whatever. Okay, I think we have about 15 minutes left. What we will do is all of us will please open Edmodo on your mobile phone or laptop, wherever you are working. Please log in. I'll give you 2 minutes time. Please log into Edmodo, E-D-M-O-D-O. If you have logged in, now you need not create a new account. You can log in as a student. If you log in as a student, you need not give your email address, right? For the class ID, just type this, what you see on the screen, small J-A-U-Z-73. J-A-U-Z-73, that is the ID. And then you can give your name or some name or whatever, the name is any name, and create some password, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, any password, because it's temporary. You are not, maybe later you can create a real account. Enter, it asks you to give your parents' details. You can skip that. You need this, can easily be created by teachers, and they help you do both summative assessment and formative assessment, periodic assessment, and final assessment. And the most important thing that happens when you use this is, once again, let me just share my screen again. So the most important advantage of using these things is, apart from conducting the quiz can be conducted in many different ways. If your college affords printing, stationery, whatever, you can have a printed format and give it to your students, and the students go through that. That's enough. But this is a different thing. So when you are organizing it on an online platform, not only the results are instant, not only the student feels highly elated that he has answered so many correct and then he knows his result immediately without waiting. Not only it reduces the burden on the part of the teacher to physically evaluate the papers, but it also helps you gather a lot of statistical data, analytical data. What is the data? For instance, you want to find out how many students have answered question 1 right. Right? Suppose you think that question 1 was the most difficult question. Not many students got it right. Most students went wrong in terms of question 1. Perhaps you can create a separate module for them built on question 1. That data is very difficult to get in case you organize it in the physical format. What kind of analysis do you need to make? How many Excel sheets you need to build, right? Suppose you think that most students skipped a certain question. They did not answer that question at all. So there is some problem with the framing of the question. There is some other problem. The syllabus has not been covered, or maybe the students had some other issue with that. So what is that? You can analyze that easily. Everybody answered that question right. Maybe the question was very easy for them to answer. It was too very simple, right? Or maybe it's too very highly factual kind of a question which can be easily remembered and answered. It doesn't need any analytical skills. So that is called washback. So when you get that washback from an assessment, the teacher has an opportunity to evaluate her own performance. The most beautiful thing about that is, instead of evaluating the student's performance and stopping there, the teacher can evaluate her own performance. Where am I? How many of my students have passed this? How many of my students are struggling with this? How many of my students are not able to answer this? Where is the mistake? Did I teach it right? Did I teach it at all? Or what went wrong then? So I can analyze my own performance using this washback that is available to me. I think blended learning and virtual learning make it very convenient to us. It is possible in the physical format also, but it's very highly laborious. If you have a large class, if you have hundreds of students and maybe half a dozen different classes that you go to, it will be really very difficult for you to do any analytics. But this does extremely conveniently for you, and then use any one of these. You create your own quiz tomorrow on Edmodo or any other platform, try to administer it to half a dozen people, or you log in with a student name and you take the test yourself and see how the results are, what feedback comes to you. Somebody made a mention of using a video lesson with an assignment built in. Maybe if possible, we'll see that also sometime. And this is what we can do in addition to what we have been doing with virtual learning. So thank you very much. We'll stop here, and maybe when we meet tomorrow, we will use our time to talk about some methodological changes that we need to make to our own teaching. So thank you. Good night. In case you have any questions, we have another 5 minutes left. Questions are open. Maybe you can either raise your hand or you can post in the chat box. Either way, I'll be here to help you.